I'd say Limerick just have been waiting for this off season to end more or less since the time that Darragh O'Donovan's sideline clipped off a Kilkenny hurley from Killian Buckley and went out for what should have been a sideline cut to give them another chance, or a chance to level it and go to extra time against Kilkenny, because obviously the off season hasn't been too kind to the panel. There's been a couple of different instances, one which seemed quite bogus, which happened early on, an Instagram video that flew around, then obviously the incident in New York that I interviewed John Kiley about a couple of months back, no, early December. You can check that out in the interviews playlist on OurGame. But I'd say they're just very much waiting to just get going again, so that the conversation doesn't have to be about things that happened off the field, so that the kind of the stain that's kind of hung over that, whereby the talk is over who within the panel, certain players not being happy with other players because of what happened and videos getting out and all that kind of crack that don't really want to go into any detail about. But even, I mean, how do players react to this? I mean, Kyle Hayes' name was in the paper because of an incident and a court case, and how does he react? You know, what happens there? I mean, how does that impact on him? Like, I mean, that's tough going for him. We even saw the tweet from one of the other colleges making light of the situation, which is extremely unhelpful, definitely bad form, and shouldn't happen. And that's tough for players to take. Just on the field, I think they probably have to evolve beyond so many balls, or like plan A, B and C being, let's say, Darren Gillan inside, and not only that, but let him kind of jink over and back within the square, dart out to his left hand side to collect the ball, wheel and knock it over the bar, because we saw Hugh Lawler's success in forcing him on his right hand side, and no doubt but Gillan is good enough to get onto his right hand side and start scoring more. But I think maybe on the day you get spooked into going onto your less favoured side, miss one or two, and then that can be contagious for the rest of the game. But like, much like Limerick in terms of like, I don't know, varying up the play a little bit, and it's not as if they don't hit the ball into the likes of Graham Mulcahy and Peter Casey or Seamus Flanagan, whoever's in there, but it just feels a little bit like teams have had a full season since they won the All-Ireland to completely study everything they're doing, to go into Croke Park for the league final against Waterford, to see exactly the way the team sits back and bursts en masse, while leaving just maybe 1, 2, 3 players inside the opposition 90 yards of the field. So if everything from outside their 45, they might only have 3 players. Obviously they're unbelievably fit getting up after it, but teams have had a chance to sit there and think, what are Limerick doing, how can we combat it? Definitely Kilkenny got on top of them the first 20 minutes. The work rate, obviously, as always with Kilkenny, was huge. Summed up best, I suppose, in how Tom Morrissey was burst inside his own half by 3 or 4 different Kilkenny players. So the Limerick were spooked to the point that, and it wasn't helpful that Declan Hannon, who will be retained as captain this year, that he suffered a head injury, eventually had to go off. But while he was still in the field, Kyle Hayes was brought back from centre forward into his own half. But anyway, that's the issue for Limerick. How do they evolve? Do they need to evolve? I mean, I would say definitely the more variety is always good in the team. But I think people want to believe this team has lost the run of itself, summed up in what I started out talking about, those incidents. People want to assume that there's rancour, and if anything happens again, that people just double down on that. It kind of had a feeling of like Tipperary in the past, whereby, you know, a bit of something is spread and then people want to believe it and then more spreads, etc. But on the field, they have the players. I just feel it's a case of mixing it up a little bit more. They won the Munster Hurling League, which, what is the massive value of that in terms of translating it to league and championship success, especially championship? Not sure there's a whole pile, because Cork were missing so many players in that final. But for Limerick, it is just about, I think, everything staying quiet off the field, continuing to get the results on the field. Spoke with William O'Donoghue during the week. That interview is going up on OurGame also, and he just wants to get going again. Will he stay in the team at midfield? I think he was a really good addition to the team last year, but at the same time I thought, you know, not having Darragh O'Donovan on the field, who was used, he was wearing number 10, whether he spent all his time at wing forward in that Munster League game against Cork's another thing. But for John Kiley during Munster last year, things started out with a defeat to Cork, so he decided to move a couple of players in and out of the field, out of the team at different times. Diarmaid Byrnes lost his place, Dan Morrissey, Darragh O'Donovan, like I said. Is he going to keep doing that to sort of have the sort of competition within the panel ramped up to the last? Is he going to start, giving different lads opportunities, making guys who had established themselves feel like their position is no longer guaranteed? So that's his challenge. But I think it's a big one, definitely not having plan A, B and C to be, let's get Aaron Gillane inside. Could he be tried centre forward, wing forward, something like that? We know it works having him inside, but does it allow the other team to set up completely against him? That is the question. So Limerick definitely going to be in the conversation for the All-Ireland this year. I think everyone expects them to definitely be in the top 3 in Munster, albeit who knows, Waterford and Clare will have to have a real kick in them this year. I certainly fancy Limerick to get out of there. I think they'll be right there with Tipperary and who knows, Cork to win Munster Championship, and at the very minimum I expect to see them in an All-Ireland semi-final. So let me know what you think. Where are they in the runners and riders, and just even in terms of the odds, they're second favourites just behind Tipperary. Thanks for watching Our Game. Don't forget to like and share the videos, and if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe.